Why do you want to visit Italy? Is it because you want to enjoy everything that this country has to offer and therefore be a responsible tourist? Or is it because you are here just to kind of gain a little bit of notoriety and therefore be a bit of an arrogant tourist? Which category do you fit into? The reason I'm asking this question is because earlier this year, the Italian government increased the fine for damaging monuments here in Italy from €15,000 to €40,000. So what was the reason behind such a decision? Was it simply another money-making opportunity? Sadly, no. Because in recent months and years, there has been a steady increase in the number of tourists who visit Italy and damage monuments and places of cultural and historical importance. And so, as a result, the government has taken this action. But why? Why do people decide to do this? Even just this week, I read about a Dutch tourist who has been accused of defacing a wall in an ancient Roman villa in Herculaneum. And let's not forget last year where a British tourist was filmed causing damage to the Colosseum in Rome by engraving his and his partner's name into the walls. The absolute shame. And then let's not forget as well the incident caused by some German tourists last year where they toppled over a 150-year-old statue as they were trying to get a photograph with it. And then let's take it back, way back to 2022, when some American tourists thought it would be fun to ride their scooters down the Spanish Steps before throwing them down the rest of the way, causing over $20,000 of damage. I mean, it's absurd. So why are people coming here to Italy and causing this kind of damage? I think that there are a few different reasons why people do it. Firstly, I think it is because of the lure of social media and the potential for their actions to go viral and that whole notoriety that people think they're going to achieve from pulling such a stunt. So I think social media can be partly to blame, but also I think it's just a complete lack of education, cultural awareness and respect that unfortunately I feel more and more people have nowadays in society. Like for me to understand the concept of why you would book a plane ticket, come here to Italy and then decide to ruin some of the most historically important and significant monuments just blows my mind. Like you have clearly left your brains at home if that is the way that you are behaving. And it also begs the question, would you do that in your own country? Probably not. So why do you think that you can come here to Italy and become somebody totally different and do things that you would never do on your own doorstep? I mean, this is the arrogance of a lot of people nowadays as well. And I think as well, linked into this is the fact that as a society, people are less capable of taking responsibility for their actions. And also they kind of view themselves as being somebody that is of need by a country. And what I mean by that is that there is a sense sometimes from tourists of entitlement. They come to a country and they believe that, you know, they should have the best of everything because they're spending their hard-earned money in that country and it's clearly helping the economy of that country in some way. Now, this is a very generalised picture that I'm painting. There are plenty of responsible tourists that visit Italy every single year who fully respect and appreciate where they are. But unfortunately, this kind of element, this section of people who are coming here and causing damage is becoming a bit of a regular occurrence. And so it's something that I feel we need to think about, because if your plan is to come to Italy to do this, I think you need to have a long, hard chat with yourself. Italy is a beautiful, beautiful country. It's problematic. Yes, there are people who live here that equally don't have respect for their own hometown or home city. But you, my friend, are about to get on a plane to visit this place. Why do you think it's okay to have that same level of disrespect? And I think as well, the times are changing when it comes to the whole tourism industry. You've probably read about the recent protests that have been taking place in Spain, predominantly against British tourists, but also against tourists in general, where villagers and people in different parts of Spain are protesting against the sheer number of people who are descending upon where they live every single year, taking photos of their houses, and just basically meaning that it's very difficult for local people to find affordable housing, because a lot of the houses and homes in different parts of Spain are being bought up as second homes or to convert into Airbnbs. And so there are some negative aspects to tourism that I think are now starting to rear their ugly head a little bit, and people are starting to kind of want to combat this problem and want to kind of tackle it head on. Now, do I think that tourism is entirely negative? No, I don't. I think if you come to Italy or to any other country and you are a responsible individual, I think that being a tourist is of wonderful importance to a country. There are so many parts of Italy that are heavily dependent on tourism. Let's, factor in the Amalfi, for example. Also here in Palermo, tourism is big business. But essentially, the flip side of it is that for local people who live in cities that are tourist attractions, it isn't really a lot of fun. Like, I remember being in the Amalfi and seeing people with gates across where they live to stop people from taking photographs outside, and a similar thing is happening in Spain as well. People are sectioning off parts of the town because they don't want people gathering outside their home at all hours taking photos of where they live. And I get it. I've been guilty of this as a tourist. Oh my gosh, that house is so amazing. Click, click, let's take a photo. But we forget there's somebody living inside that house. Like, how respectful is it to be standing outside, often in large numbers, or often, on a very repetitive basis, taking photos of where somebody lives? It starts to feel like you are living in a prison when that is your reality. And I wonder, those people who are consistently doing this, how would they feel if the same thing was happening on their own doorstep? It's a very, very different reality. And so I think sometimes we have to put ourselves in the shoes of local people, because it is a wonderful thing to live somewhere which is very famous to visit and to live somewhere which is popular with tourists, because if you really appreciate where you live, you feel so blessed that you don't have to hop on a plane at the end of the day. You can just go home and wake up, and every day this is your reality. But it's not easy at the same time, because when you live in a city that is inundated with tourists, unfortunately prices do go up. Restaurant prices go up, the cost of housing increases, and the availability of housing becomes more difficult as well, because people want to just rent their houses out for guests, for tourists, or for Airbnb purposes. So it can be difficult sometimes, but I don't think that it's entirely a negative industry. It just requires people to be a bit more responsible and to not visit a country and do things that they just wouldn't do in their own country. Italy is incredibly beautiful, and I almost want to say that if you don't have the appreciation for the beauty, then we perhaps don't need your money or your tourism, because essentially it's going to cost us more to repair whatever damage you might come here to do than you probably would ever spend in this country in the first place. So a bit of a harsh message today, but true, because it's really sad to read these stories on a very regular basis now of people that come here and just show a complete lack of respect and kind of appreciation for where they are. If you want to behave like this, do this to your home, do this to the homes of your friends and family, do it to the property of your friends and family, and see how they tolerate something like that. Do it in your own hometown and see how they tolerate your actions. Don't come here to Italy and ruin what is a very beautiful and special country. I will see you in the next episode.